Welcome to the Books Bible Study where we are going through the entire Bible. We're starting at Genesis, ending in Revelation. Today or tonight, we are on Genesis chapter 25. Verse 1. Abraham again took a wife, and her name was Keturah. Verse 2. And she bore him Zimran, Yokshan, Medan, Midian, Yishbak, and Shua. So we see that the promise of God is still in effect with Abraham. Even at his old age, he is still conceiving far beyond Isaac, right? So verse 3, Yokshan begot Sheba and Dedan. And the sons of Dedan were Ashuram, Letushim, and Leumi. Verse 4, and the sons of Midian were Ephah and Epher, Hanok, Abida, and Eldaah. All these were the children of Keturah. Verse 5. And Abraham gave all that he had to Isaac. Okay. Verse 6. But Abraham gave gifts to the sons of the concubines which Abraham had. And while he was still living, he sent them eastward, away from Isaac his son, to the country of east. To the country of the east. Verse 7. This is the sum of the years of Abraham's life, which he lived, 175 years. So Abraham went on to be fruitful and multiply long after Ishmael and Isaac. Okay, so verse 8. Then Abraham breathed his last and died in a good old age, an old man and full of years, and was gathered to his people. Verse 9. And his sons, Isaac and Ishmael, buried him in the cave of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, in the field of Ephron, the son of Zohar, the Hittite. Verse 10. The field which Abraham purchased from the sons of Heth. There Abraham was buried, and Sarah his wife. Verse 11. And it came to pass, after the death of Abraham, that God blessed his son Isaac. And Isaac dwelt at Beer Lahai Roi. Verse 12. Now this is the genealogy of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar, the Egyptian, Sarah's maidservant, bore to Abraham. So you see, we talked about last chapter how Isaac received his wife, and now we're going back to Ishmael's lineage. Okay? Verse 13. And these were the names of the sons of Ishmael, by their names, according to their generations. The firstborn of Ishmael, Nebaioth, then Kedar, then Adbeel, then Mibsam, verse 14, Mishpah, Duma, Massa, verse 15, Hadar, Tamar, Yetur, Naphish, and Kedemah, verse 16. These were the sons of Ishmael, and these were their names, by their towns and their settlements, 12 princes according to their nation. So when the Bible mentions princes, it typically means that they had their own nation, their own towns or settlements that they ruled over. Okay. Even when talking about the kingdom of darkness, if they call it a prince, there is a nation that it rules over. Verse 17. These are the years of the life of Ishmael, 137 years, and he breathed his last and died, and was gathered to his people. Verse 18. They dwelt from Havilah as far as Shur, which is east of Egypt, as you go toward Assyria. He died in the presence of all his brethren. Verse 19. This is the genealogy of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Isaac. Verse 20. Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah as wife. We know that Rebekah, it says, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Padan Aram, the sister of Laban, the Syrian. Verse 21. Now remember how Laban was, right? And remember Bethuel is Nahor's son. So this is his nephew and his niece, okay? Verse 21. Now Isaac pleaded with the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord granted his plea, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived. I find that interesting because he pleaded with the Lord. We often these days find that the woman is pleading with the Lord. when she is barren. So that may be a solution to those who are struggling with conceiving. Maybe your husband needs to plead with the Lord, and hopefully it is your husband. Plead with the Lord for you. Okay, so that seems to be a solution there. Verse 22. But the children struggled together within her, and she said, if all is well, why am I like this? So she went to inquire of the Lord. Verse 23. And the Lord said to her, which tells me that God will answer you when you ask him questions, even the hard questions, right? Hey, Sister Brenda, see you on. Good to have you. Verse 23. And the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb. 2 peoples shall be separated from your body. 1 people shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger. So we also see another solution here about why there may be a struggle in the womb after conception, specifically with twins. There could be 2 nations in the womb, right? And it may not necessarily be twins, or 2 babies being born, but maybe it's 2 different mindsets, right? A mixture of good, a mixture of evil. And so when we look at the Bible, it is our guide, right? So if you see a similar situation or something strikes you as, you kind of feel a little nudge in your spirit, that could be an answer you're looking for. It could be leading you on how to pray, or who to go to help, okay? So I want you to keep that in mind as we're reading. Even though we're reading the Old Testament, there are absolutely answers, there are absolutely prayers in the Old Testament. Things that we may not have considered could be the solution to our issues. Okay, so verse 24. So when her days were fulfilled for her to give birth, indeed there were twins in her womb. Verse 25. And the first came out red. He was like a hairy garment all over. So they called his name Esau. Verse 26. Afterward, his brother came out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, so his name was called Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when she bore him. So Isaac was waiting 20 years for his wife Rebekah to conceive. Because remember, he was 40 when she met him, and when they met, they got married. Okay. Verse 27. So the boys grew, and Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field, but Jacob was a mild man dwelling in tents. Verse 28. And Isaac, the dad, right, loved Esau because he ate of his game, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Verse 29. This is very important, y'all. Verse 29. Now Jacob cooked the stew, and Esau came in from the field, and he was weary. Verse 30. And Esau said to Jacob, please feed me with that same red stew, for I am weary. Therefore his name was called Edom. So Esau is the father of the Edomites. We're going to come across them later on, so remember that, okay? Esau and Jacob are twins. Verse 31. But Jacob said, sell me your birthright as of this day. Okay, so we're starting to see something. Remember, I told you guys from last chapter 2, remember Laban, right? Remember him. Also remember that these are Nahor's offspring. So they were not necessarily raised up with the fear of God like Abraham's children, right? So keep that in mind. But anyway, verse 31, Jacob told Esau to sell him his birthright. So a birthright has to do with identity, position, and inheritance, right? So your identity as the first offspring, your position of authority, right? And the inheritance of physical and spiritual blessings, right? So for the firstborn would receive double portion, double what the other children would receive, right? So that is very important. That's very important, not only immediately, that is very important for your children and your children's children, that you would receive double portion, right? And you would have that position of authority. Verse 32. And Esau said, look, I'm about to die. So what is this birthright to me? Okay. So that looking for temporary relief makes you misjudge the value of something. And all of us have done that. We saw the immediate situation, right? And it causes us not to see the value in us and others, right? Because we're looking at this temporary issue that we're having. Verse 33. Then Jacob said, swear to me as of this day. So he swore to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. If you haven't noticed the pattern, your word is very important, right? We don't put so much importance on it now. Now it has to be a contract. We have to sign our name. But even that is not valid as it should be. But for us as believers, our word should be yes or no, right? Our word should hold weight, because it may not hold weight in the natural realm, but it holds absolute weight in the spiritual realm. That's why we have to watch what we say, because something is going to happen when we say it, right? So he swore to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. Verse 34. And Jacob gave Esau bread and stew of lentils. Then he ate and drank, arose, and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. So that's why believers, we cannot live in fear, or live for that temporary relief, right? We can't have that fear of death or fear of people, all of these different type of fears that come up, because it causes your perception, right, to be based on these temporary feelings of fear, and that's how you end up making your decision, right? As you've gotten older and you saw the decisions you made because you were afraid, because you probably feared because you didn't have information or you didn't have understanding. But now you realize, if I would have known that, I wouldn't have made that decision, right? So we, as believers, we cannot live in fear, right? We cannot, when our perception is off, because we're basing it off of a fear, we don't see the long-term effects that our decision that we're making right now will have on us. And not just on us, but on our children and those that are influenced by us, right? It causes us to be impulsive, right? And gratifying your appetite, when that appetite has not been submitted to God, it leads to those risky decisions, which leads to risky behaviors, right? So Esau did not care about the price that he was paying to indulge into some food, right? And your food can be anything. For him, it was food. Your food or your thing that you crave, that you desire, can be anything, right? And God calls that profane when you are willing to give up your inheritance, willing to give up your blessing, willing to give up eternal life with God, right? For what fills or satisfies you for that moment. So that's the lesson that you can take from this, right? What are you giving up by this impulsive temporary decision that you are making? Are you giving up your position? Are you giving up your inheritance, your prosperity, right? Are you giving up your blessing, right? And so think about that before you make any impulsive decisions. Are you giving up your identity in Christ, right? Are you creating a curse for the generations that come after you? Okay, so our decisions are not just our own. Every one of our decisions affect those around us, right? We may be individual people, but there are people that are depending on us, right? There are people watching us that you may not even think are watching you. So every decision should be made with heaven's wisdom, not carnal wisdom, right? We want to seek heaven for the answers. And as I said, the Bible has answers for every situation. When you're reading and your first time reading, if there's like a quickening within you, like there's something here, that means it's something there for you, right? And so the reason why we don't really do verses is because you need the whole chapter to get the context, right? Because sometimes you read one verse and you don't really get the context, so you don't understand it. But when you read the full chapter, you begin to understand why a thing is a thing, or why this happened, right? You understand results and consequences of certain actions, right? Because you may not know. Everyone has not grown up with the Bible in the home, so you may not know that if I do this, this is a consequence for that, or you may not even know that this is against God, right? So that's why we read. So we have this information so we don't operate out of fear, right? And so that concludes Genesis chapter 25. Meet us back here for Genesis chapter 26. Also, if you're just now starting, please catch up. The videos are only 15 to 20 minutes long. Just binge it if you need to, but catch up with us. We want to take this journey with you. Ask your questions, write your thoughts, write your feelings, all of them, right? Because all of them mean something, right? All of it means something, and God can absolutely speak through that. So you will be hopefully excited when you find the answers as we go throughout the Bible. So we're now halfway done with Genesis. Genesis has 50 chapters. So join us. Just jump right on in at 25. Like I said, go back so that you can catch up to where we are, so you have some insight on the background story of this. So God bless you all. Again, I will see you all later for Genesis chapter 26.